You've been taught that loyalty is sacred, that staying proves your worth, that walking away makes you weak. But tonight, as you lie awake replaying every moment they dismissed you, every time your presence was taken for granted, you feel the truth clawing at your chest. The very act of staying, of being available, predictable, constant, has stripped you of the one thing that commands respect: scarcity. You are abundant, and abundance is worthless. They know you'll answer their call at midnight. They know you'll forgive their cruelty by morning. They know you'll be there when everyone else has left. And in knowing this, they've learned the most dangerous lesson of all, that you have no price. When something has no price, it has no value. When it has no value, it becomes invisible. You have become invisible in plain sight, a ghost haunting the edges of lives that no longer see you as essential. The loyalty you thought was your strength has become your cage, and the bars are made of your own desperate need to prove you matter. There's a prison you've built around yourself, and the bars are made of your own desperate need to be needed. You show up when they don't call. You forgive when they don't apologize. You invest when they withdraw. Every time you choose to stay when you should leave, you teach them that your presence has no price, that your attention can be assumed, that your power can be ignored. The chain around your neck isn't made of metal. It's woven from your own misguided belief that love means staying when staying destroys you. Look at what you've become in the name of being good, of being loyal, of being the person who never abandons ship. You've abandoned yourself instead. You've taught them that boundaries are suggestions, that respect is optional, that your emotional well-being is negotiable. The weight of these invisible chains grows heavier each day because you're the one who forged them. You hammered each link with every excuse you made for their behavior, every time you chose their comfort over your dignity, every moment you convinced yourself that enduring disrespect was somehow noble. You've become a prisoner of your own goodness, and your captors don't even realize they hold the keys because you handed them over so willingly, so completely, so quietly that even you forgot you once had the power to walk away. Machiavelli understood what you're only beginning to glimpse. It is better to be feared than loved, but most powerful of all is to be missed. When you are always there, you become furniture, noticed only when you're gone. The prince who makes himself too available becomes predictable, and predictability breeds contempt. Your constant presence has become your greatest weakness because it removes the one element that creates desire: uncertainty. They know you'll be there tomorrow, so why should they value you today? The brilliant Italian saw through the facade of human nature centuries ago, recognizing that people don't cherish what they possess. They crave what they might lose. You've made yourself a possession rather than a person, an asset they own rather than a force they must reckon with. Your reliability has become your downfall because it eliminated the very thing that makes humans fight for something: the fear of losing it. While you've been busy proving your worth through consistency, they've been learning to take that consistency for granted. Machiavelli would have seen your mistake immediately. You've given away your leverage by making yourself indispensable in theory, but dismissible in practice. True power lies not in being needed, but in being wanted, and want only exists where there's uncertainty about availability. You've removed all uncertainty from the equation, and in doing so you've removed all power. The prince who can be counted on is the prince who can be ignored. Deep in the human psyche lies a truth that civilized society tries to suppress. We want what we cannot have, and we discard what comes too easily. Your willingness to always be there has made you common, and common things are not treasured. When you walk away, you activate the most primal human fear: loss. Suddenly, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. The space you leave behind echoes with questions. Where did they go? Will they come back? What did I lose? This isn't manipulation. This is psychology in its rawest form. The same mind that took your presence for granted will suddenly find itself calculating what your absence means. They'll replay conversations, looking for signs they missed. They'll wonder if you're angry, if you're hurt, if you've found someone better. The very uncertainty you removed by always being available returns with devastating force when you're suddenly, inexplicably unavailable. Scarcity creates value where abundance created waste. Your absence forces them to confront a reality they never had to face while you were there. Life without you is different, emptier, less predictable. The human brain, wired for pattern recognition, suddenly finds itself scrambling to make sense of the disruption. What was once a given becomes a question, and questions demand answers in ways that certainties never do. You feel it now, don't you? That sick recognition in your stomach as you realize how much of your power you've given away. Every unanswered text you still responded to, every plan they cancelled that you forgave, every moment they chose someone else while you waited in the wings. You weren't being loyal, you were being convenient. You weren't showing love, you were showing weakness. The person you thought would never leave you alone has learned they never have to earn your presence because you always freely give it. The nausea rises as you count the cost of your misplaced generosity. All those nights you stayed awake worrying about their feelings while they slept peacefully, unburdened by thoughts of yours. All those times you rearranged your life to accommodate their whims while they never thought to ask what you needed. All those moments you swallowed your hurt to keep the peace while they continued hurting you without consequence. You've been playing a game where you followed all the rules while they ignored them entirely, and somehow you convinced yourself this was fairness. The recognition burns because it's so clear now, so obvious, that you wonder how you missed it for so long. You weren't building a relationship, you were building a monument to your own diminishment. Walking away isn't about revenge, it's about reclamation. When you remove your presence from spaces that don't honor it, you force a reckoning. The silence you leave behind becomes a mirror that reflects their choices back to them. Your absence doesn't scream, it whispers, it doesn't demand, it suggests, it doesn't threaten. It simply removes the very thing they took for granted. This isn't emotional manipulation, this is strategic self-preservation. You're not leaving to hurt them, you're leaving to save yourself. The act of walking away is the most honest thing you can do, because it aligns your actions with your worth. You're no longer pretending that disrespect feels like love, that neglect feels like care, that being taken for granted feels like being valued. Your departure is a statement of fact. You will not remain where you are not honored. It's not vindictive. It's necessary. It's not cruel, it's kind to yourself. It's not punishment. It's protection. When you walk away, you reclaim the energy you've been pouring into a bottomless well. You redirect your attention from those who squander it to yourself, who deserves it. You stop trying to convince people of your value and start living it instead. This is what reclamation looks like. Not taking something from them, but taking yourself back from a situation that was slowly erasing you. Watch how quickly the dynamic shifts when you're no longer available on demand. The phone calls that never came suddenly start. The invitations that were never extended mysteriously appear. The respect that was absent magically manifests. This isn't because you've changed who you are. It's because you've changed your availability. Scarcity transforms you from a given into a choice, from an assumption into a decision. Your absence forces them to actively choose you rather than passively accept you. The transformation is swift and startling, because it reveals how much power you always had but never used. They realize they must now compete for what they once received freely. They must now consider what they once ignored. They must now value what they once dismissed. Your unavailability becomes your authority. Your absence becomes your presence. Your silence becomes your voice. The person who was once background noise in their life suddenly becomes the music they can't stop thinking about. This shift doesn't happen because you've become more interesting. It happens because you've become less accessible. The scarcity principle doesn't lie. What's rare becomes precious. What's limited becomes desired. What might be lost becomes worth fighting for. Your silence becomes your most eloquent speech, while others fill the void with explanations, justifications, and desperate attempts to regain attention. Your absence speaks with the authority of choice. You don't explain why you left. Explanation diminishes power. You don't justify your decision. Justification suggests doubt. You simply are not there, and that absence becomes a statement more powerful than any words you could have spoken. Your silence forces them to fill the void with their own thoughts about your worth. The empty space where your voice used to be becomes a canvas for their imagination, and imagination is always more powerful than reality. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing. They create stories about your absence because the mind cannot tolerate unexplained gaps. Your silence becomes a question that demands an answer, a puzzle they feel compelled to solve. Where words might have been dismissed or argued with, silence simply is. It cannot be refuted, cannot be negotiated with, cannot be manipulated. It stands as pure fact. You are not there. This fact reverberates through their consciousness, creating ripples where your presence once created barely a whisper. The eloquence of your absence speaks truths that your words never could, that you have options, that you have standards, that you have the strength to enforce both. Nothing terrifies people more than realizing they don't control you. When you walked away, you shattered their illusion of power over your emotions, your time, your energy. They thought they had you figured out, predictable, manageable, controllable. Your departure reveals a truth they weren't prepared for. You are not dependent on their approval for your sense of self. This independence doesn't just surprise them, it unsettles them. Independent people are dangerous because they cannot be manipulated through need. The fear in their eyes when they realize you might actually be fine without them is the fear of obsolescence. They built their sense of security on your dependence, your need, your willingness to accept less than you deserve. When you walk away, you prove that their assessment was wrong. You are not the desperate, needy person they thought they knew. You are not the reliable victim they could always count on to absorb their poor treatment. You are someone who has choices, who exercises those choices, who values themselves enough to remove themselves from situations that don't serve them. This realization shifts the entire foundation of how they see you and, more importantly, how they see themselves in relation to you. The person they thought they could always count on to stay regardless of how they behaved has revealed themselves to be someone with standards, boundaries, and the courage to enforce both. Feel it settling into your bones, that quiet, unshakable sense of your own worth. You're no longer waiting for external validation to feel complete. Your value isn't determined by who stays or goes, who calls or doesn't, who chooses you or chooses someone else. Walking away taught you the most liberating truth of all. You are whole, with or without them. This isn't arrogance, it's sovereignty. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. You've remembered that your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. The shift is profound because it comes from within. You've stopped looking to others as the mirror that shows you your worth, and started seeing that worth reflected in your own choices, your own standards, your own refusal to accept less than you deserve. This sovereignty isn't loud or boastful, it's quiet and certain. It doesn't need to announce itself because it simply is. You wake up each day knowing that you are enough, that your life has meaning and value regardless of who recognizes it, that your happiness is not contingent on the approval or presence of others. This knowledge becomes your foundation, your strength, your peace. From this place of wholeness, you no longer move from desperation but from choice. You no longer act from fear of loss, but from confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes. You've become sovereign over your own emotional experience. From this moment forward, everything changes. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer explain, you demonstrate. You no longer beg for respect. You command it through your actions. People will have to earn access to your time, energy, and emotional investment. Your presence becomes a privilege that must be honored, not a given that can be assumed. This isn't about becoming cold or calculating, it's about becoming discerning. It's about understanding that your energy is finite and precious, and it should be invested wisely. The new rules are simple but revolutionary. Your time has value, your attention has worth, your emotional investment has a cost. Those who want access to these precious resources must prove they deserve them through consistent, respectful behavior. You no longer give chances indefinitely, forgive endlessly, or invest in relationships that provide no return. Instead, you observe actions, require consistency, and reward good treatment with your continued presence. You've learned the difference between being open-hearted and being a doormat, between being forgiving and being foolish, between being loyal and being self-destructive. These new rules protect your energy while attracting people who actually value what you offer. Quality replaces quantity, depth replaces desperation, respect replaces tolerance. Power doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It moves quietly, like a tide that changes everything in its path. When you walked away, you didn't just leave a situation, you reclaimed your agency. You taught yourself that you can survive without what you thought you needed. You proved that your happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances. This is the deepest form of power, the knowledge that you can walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. When you truly understand this, you never have to walk away again, because people sense that you could, and that possibility changes everything. The power follows not because you're trying to wield it, but because you've embodied it. You move through the world differently now, with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their own worth and isn't afraid to honor it. Others sense this change even if they can't articulate it. They respond to the energy of someone who has options, who exercises choice, who cannot be taken for granted. Your power isn't in what you do to others, it's in what you're willing to do for yourself. It's the power of self-respect, self-protection, and self-love. It's the power that comes from knowing you would rather be alone than be disrespected, rather be misunderstood than be diminished, rather walk away than stay where you're not valued. This power transforms every relationship, every interaction, every choice you make. It becomes your compass, your anchor, your strength.